Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Chang, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science is now teaching us that everything is energy, and that energy is interconnected and interdependent. In essence, that energy is just one thing. Now, science is now teaching it, but this is not even new science. This is the science of quantum physics, which has been around for over 100 years. Now, ancient wisdom and spirituality has been teaching the truth of oneness for eons. So science and spirituality and ancient wisdom is actually saying the same thing. And so in essence, what you do to another person, you are actually doing to another aspect of yourself. And when mankind awakens to the universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is turning within with Kelvin Chin. Kelvin, welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Great to be here.
So great to be here. Kelvin, please share with our listeners your journey to awakening.
Sure. Well, my journey started at birth, like most people. It will start at the beginning, physical birth. I very early on, I was playing with angels when I was about 2, 3 years old. Now, I didn't know that until my aunts told me this when I was in high school or something, because they were in junior high and high school when I was born, and I would go visit them at my grandparents' house. And my mother was the eldest child, so she got married first and had the first baby, and it was me. And so I that was my first thing that experienced spiritually that I was not even aware of. I hadn't remembered until they pointed it out to me when I was in high school. So that was interesting to me to learn about myself.
Yes.
And I learned to meditate when I was a teenager, and that opened me up in a different way. And we can get into details about all that. But then in my mid-20s, my reincarnation memory started opening up around 1977. So I was 26 years old at the time, and it was spontaneous. And they go back about 6,000 years now. I remember pieces of lifetimes for about 20 to 25 lifetimes, stretching back about 6,000 years.
Awesome.
And then in the mid-1980s, I opened up and I just started just spontaneously. I'd never read any spiritual books or seen any lecture. I mean, I learned meditation because I was stressed out college kid and I was anxiety. That's why I learned to meditate. I didn't learn to meditate for spiritual reasons, but then I started having all these spiritual experiences. Mid-1980s, archangels, angels, people who were dead loved ones, other people who I didn't know who were dead, etc., started communicating with me. And I started, that started in 1986, and it continued, and all the reincarnation stuff has continued to present. And so now, see, it's been happening for me for so long that it's very normal, very natural for me. So, and I've had many experiences on the other side. I had an NDE when I was 21 years old. I almost drowned, etc. So I've had this huge range of experiences that's been going on for, well, my whole life, and consciously, for 50 years since I learned to meditate.
Wow.
So that's
amazing.
the big picture. So where do we want to go?
Well, we're staying right with you. It's great. No, everything you said is amazing, and I love the fact that you said it wasn't like you were studying books, because one of the things I stress on my show, or I share on my show, is truth is not found in the outer world. Truth, now, books are great, teachers are great, lectures are great, workshops are great, all those things are great. But all those things can do is point you to you, because the only place truth can be found is within you. So that is, but and a good book, inspirational book or inspirational teacher, inspirational lecture or workshop points you to you. And when you, but the
Exactly.
truth is actually found within you. So I love that you said
That's
that.
exactly right.
Yes.
I love that you said that because that's why I talk about turning within. You know, I talk my meditation I call turning within, and I use the phrase turning within even when I'm not talking about meditation per se, because just like you said, it's about turning within. We live in a world that's so external oriented, and everything is judged and valued and so forth in external, what I call material ways. And I don't mean materialistic, just financial.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just stuff, you know, and things we can identify and point to. And I get it, and I understand it, and that's our waking state reality, and it's okay. But there's this whole inner reality, and so to your point, you know, I've had all these experiences, but for me, like you said, it's all about self-knowledge. It's about knowing ourselves more. How can we open ourselves up more to who we are? And then along those lines, the experiences I've had are unique to me. And so I don't tell people they have to have the experiences that I've had, or even maybe they've even had reincarnation memories, but they're not in the same way that I have. And that's fine, because we're all unique and we're all figuring it out. That's what self-knowledge is, right? And so I am interpreting. And so I encourage my students, for example, to have their own experiences. I use mine as a kind of, I call them data points, so that they can kind of have an informational point, but they have to have their own experiences, and then they have to have their own interpretations of those experiences. And I tell them they have their own interpretation of what I'm saying too, because this is my interpretation. That's what self-knowledge is, right?
Yes, very true. What we are unique. We're all,
Right.
no two snowflakes are alike. No
Exactly.
two people are alike. We are all unique aspects of the divine, of God, of source, all that is, whatever terminology you want to give the one, because all there is one. And we're all unique aspects of that one. So yes, exactly what you said. It's everybody's awakening experience is going to be unique. Everything they go through in life is going to be unique to them. So that's very, very important. Yes.
Yeah, and just like you said, everybody's experience of, again, like, as you know, I work across all cultures, all religions. I work with people who are atheists, agnostics, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, Christians, doesn't matter, and Buddhists and so forth. So for me, I leave people open to how they experience, if they call God, you know, what is their experience of God, and how do they interpret that experience? That's between them and themselves. Not now, they can ask me for my opinion and so forth and so on, but I make it clear that that's just my opinion. That's my interpretation and so forth. We each, like you say, are unique. I call it free will. We're free will, freestanding minds. The phrase I use is we are sovereign entities, our mind, our consciousness, our spirit, our souls. We are sovereign entities, independent, and this is the eternal journey that we're on. Is called life, in my opinion. At least my memories go back 6,000 years. You know, I can't speak for eternity, but logically it seems eternity. And so this is what we're doing, right?
Yes. I agree. I also want to just mention to the viewing audience, because some people might be listening to this on a podcast, which is great because your audio is fine. But if people are watching us on YouTube, your video is a little frozen at times, or not fluid. Your video is not fluid, but that's okay. And it's because of the times we're living in right now. More people, because of the pandemic, are home on Zoom, and so we're recording this on Zoom, so many more people are using Zoom right now than normally would be, and the internet is shaky right now. So I just wanted to explain that to people who are watching this on YouTube. I'm just very glad that they can understand what you're saying, even though the video on their end might look a little, well, what's wrong with that video? So I just wanted to give that explanation. And that also kind of leads into what we are experiencing right now. This, what I call, is a fear pandemic. It's more, it's a fear tactic to put people in a state of fear. Because when people like when you know, It's all about truly knowing who you are. And when you know you are a divine, infinite, meaning eternal, a divine, infinite, unique aspects of God, all that is, my term for God is all that is. There's nothing outside of God. Everything is God. And everything has that energy, that one energy, which I call love. Science has discovered this energy, that everything is this energy, and my word for that energy is love. And when you understand and know who you are, nothing, you can't be afraid of anything. When you know you are a divine aspect of God, what does God fear? Nothing.
Right.
So to me, when you're awakened to who you truly are, there's no reason to fear.
Yeah.
So,
that's why I talk about turning within.
yes.
And what does that do? That strengthens one's connection with oneself, and that increases one's self-confidence, and that broadens one's inner foundation, so that then we feel more stable and unshakable, regardless of what uncertainties may occur in our lives. Because as you know, one of the nonprofit segments of one of the segments of my nonprofit is my Overcoming the Fear of Death work, and I've written a book to that title and so forth. But in helping people overcome the fear of death, very often what we can distill that down to is the fear of uncertainty. Yes. And so that's what we have going on right now worldwide with this pandemic, yes. the fear of uncertainty. And I tell people, even long before this pandemic, happened, I would tell people, look, I can't change the fact that we live in an uncertain universe, because in the free will universe, that's inherent. The uncertainty is inherent. People are all making free-willed, independent choices and so forth and so on that are influencing this, that, and the other thing. Plus, the physical world itself is doing its own thing and so forth, and we're interacting with it, etc., as individual minds. All of that creates incredible amount of uncertainty. I cannot tell you whether my organic Fuji apples are going to be at Trader Joe's. Literally, like 2-3 months ago, I went there and there was one left. Oh, wow. One, and I took one. Okay.
Yeah, I love it. You know what? I just have to say, with this crate, this has been going on now a month. I have never in my life, I'm 58 years old, never in my life went into a store and saw empty shelves before. This is the first time in my life I saw empty shelves. But honestly, a lot of times I would find that one thing I was looking for, and there would be one left. That's the universe saying, here, this is for you. Okay.
Yeah. And then sometimes if you want toilet paper, it ain't there at all. So,
well, and I don't get the thing about toilet paper, because honestly, I always have toilet paper in the house. For 3 weeks, I wasn't able to buy any, even though I never ran out. But then when I saw some, I did buy some. But I am using the same amount of toilet paper I've always used. So I don't get the toilet paper thing at all.
Exactly.
I don't.
It's bizarre. Somebody has garages. A whole bunch of people have garages full. Anyway, back to my point. It's like I tell people, I can't get rid of the uncertainty in the world, but I can help you reduce and get rid of your fear. That's what I can do. So that's the issue. It's not about getting rid of uncertainty, and because that's what the knee jerk is. Look at toilet paper, for example. Why are people buying that? It's because they're trying to control things. They're trying to control their lives. That's the inner reason, because they feel out of control because of this pandemic. So they think, well, I'm going to control things. I'm going to buy all the toilet paper. And then they get a garage full of toilet paper. Then how do they feel? They still feel.
They won't have to buy toilet paper for another 10 years.
I know. Yeah, but they're still but they're still fearful. That's the point. It doesn't get rid of the the fear. Now I'm certainly going to have toilet paper for the next year. I'm still afraid,
Exactly. Because outward actions will not soothe anybody's fear. I have to honestly say, and I've said this several times on my show, I was awake from birth and didn't know it. But one of the things I never felt, never ever, not a day in my life, not a second in my life, have I ever felt feared death. I always knew that there was a greater reality, much greater than what was around us, even as a very small child. I never feared death. So that just, and I know many people will say, wow, that's like, wow, you never feel, no, never felt, and I guess death is the biggest uncertainty. I've always known internally, and it wasn't from a book, from a person. I always knew internally that there was a greater reality, and it was going to be better than this, I'm not putting down the 3D, what I call this reality, I call the 3D matrix. Yeah. And it's still a matrix that we are each co-creating. We're collectively creating this matrix. And just as we collectively created it, we can collectively dismantle it. And my belief, what's going on right now, is the dismantling of the 3D matrix. So we're going as a humanity, as a collective, as Gaia, Mother Earth, we're going to a higher dimension. Like you say, you've seen many dimensions, and we as a collective are going to a higher. So it's exciting. It's very exciting. Some people that are not aware of what's happening right now are very fearful. But those that are awake and aware are like, I can't even, the last 3-4 weeks, I haven't been able to really sleep, knowing that, wow, we are at the beginning of humanity's mass awakening. And it's really exciting.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see how that plays out, because we historically as a race have been through this over the millennia a number of times.
Yes.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, I hear what, let me can I interject right there?
Yeah.
I see what you're saying there, but see, there's multiple timelines. And I believe that each of us will experience the timeline that we resonate to. Yes, as humanity has been through this many times, but where we resonate is where we'll be, and it's in a now moment. It's like in every now moment you choose by your vibration. Like, okay, we'll take the two main vibrations is love or fear. So now those who want to stay in the fear, and it's a free will choice, and there's no judgment. Those who want to stay in that vibration of fear is going to experience something very different than those who stay in the vibration of love, because it's multiple times, it's an infinite number of timelines we can experience, and we have that free will choice.
So each individual, like you said, has that choice.
Yes.
So some people will choose as you, and to use your terminology, some people will choose moving away from fear, and some people will choose to stay with fear. So that's an individual choice, and we'll see how that works out.
Yes.
But to your point about physical reality, I always like to emphasize that we are here in physical reality to live and enjoy and be effective and interact with each other in whatever way we, again, free will choose to. Now, I choose to interact with people in a non-hurtful way. Some people choose to act in a hurtful way. That's their choice. And we can talk about why, because I've written about this. Why are people cruel? And why do they bully? and what can we do about it? But we live in a physical reality that, in my opinion, we chose to be here. So let's embrace this and not have one foot in one boat and one foot in the other. Be fully here. Yes, you could say, Kelvin, don't you have one foot in the other boat in a sense? So to speak. I kind of can go from here to the other side very easily, quickly, but I am engaged here as Kelvin Chin. I am not enamored by my other lifetimes. I know what they are. I learn from them. I take tidbits and I've learned from them. That's a choice that I make. Yes. And that's what I encourage my students to do, is to draw, if they have old memories like that, to draw and learn who they are. Because it comes back to the first thing you said, which is, which is knowing thyself, know ourselves, self-knowledge, self-realization. And so how does that inform us? But it's informing me as Kelvin Chin to help me in 2020, the 20th century, and now the 21st century, to live here in the present. Because I am in the continual present, which happens to be right here, last I checked, on planet Earth.
Yes, yes, yes. No, no, no. I hope you didn't get from what I was saying not to be here and present, because
No, that's what I got. I got
okay,
that from you. Yeah.
okay,
No,
okay.
I
All
was
right. Yes.
reinforcing
Thank you.
what you said,
Yes.
because I was reinforcing what you said, because I often hear other people, not you, other people say, oh, you know, we need to, this is an illusion. For example, this world is an illusion. Okay, I agree that there are parts of life that people may choose mentally that are illusory, but this world is real. This is like, this table is real, this laptop is real. It's not an illusion. I'm not making up the fact that I'm talking to you right now on your podcast.
Right.
You know,
right.
Wait to One podcast, Wait to One this podcast. I'm not making that up. That's not an illusion. That's reality.
Okay.
Now, I agree that we may make choices, however, to live in fear, for example, and we can make that our reality. Is that a structural reality that exists for everybody? No, it's a choice that that person is making. So illusory in that sense,
right.
that person, okay?
Right.
But for them, it's their reality, you know. But this is a physical reality. We do have houses. It's not an illusion. That's what I was referring to, because some people talk about this is an illusion, and really the real world is in heaven or nirvana or whatever, depending on what your culture or religion or whatever language is.
Right.
You know, that's where we really need to be. And that's what I discourage people from, because then they're not engaging with their loved ones here really fully. They're kind of here, but they're not here. And so I encourage people to be here in the present, wherever they are. And that means after they die, they're going to be in that present, which is heaven, nirvana, Valhalla, whichever language you want to call that, you know?
Okay, I hear you fully, and I understand what you're saying fully. Now let's take that heaven, nirvana. Now I claim to be of no religion. I mean, I was brought up in a Christian environment, but I don't claim any religion, because once I awoke into the universal truth of oneness, to me, to put a label on me, like Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever, I'm separating myself from another person. So I take on no labels like that. But there are pearls of wisdom that are in the Bible. Jesus said, now what I see, Jesus was a very awake person walking around 2 years ago. And one of the things he said when he was asked, well, where is heaven? He said, heaven is within.
Exactly.
So heaven, what we call heaven, nirvana, utopia, that's inside of us in every now moment. So it's not a place to go to, it's in us. That's where we tap into it. And as far as, now the physical reality, getting back to the physical reality, one of the things that stuck with me, and when I was in 7th grade science class, and we were studying atoms and molecules, and my 7th grade science teacher said, nothing is truly solid. See, this world appears to be extremely solid because it's vibrating at a very low, dense frequency. But we know from science, you take anything, take this desk, take the computer, take anything, put it under a super high power microscope, what do we see? We see tiny moving particles. So that tells me that this desk has life in it, because the particles are moving and not even touching. And then we call those particles atoms, and we find out that in those atoms, it's 99.99999% empty space. So the point I'm making there, everything is spirit. What we call the physical reality is not separate from spirit. What it is a very low vibration, which makes it very dense. And to our 5 human senses, to our 5 senses that are extremely limited, I think science say with our 5 senses, we can detect maybe 0.035% of what is actually around us with our limited senses. So what we call physical is there, and we are creating it, but in essence it is a low vibrational, it's a low vibrational spiritual dimension, which I call the 3D matrix, because it is there. It's not that it's not real, but it's not as solid as we think it is. It's like, and we can, because with our thoughts, we create it with our individual thoughts, we can create our individual experiences, but with our collective thoughts and intentions, we create the 3D matrix. So you get where I'm going.
Yeah. So the way I language that is that you're talking about energy, atoms, molecules, energy. So everything is energy, the laptop, the table, and so forth and so on. And it's vibrating at a slower frequency than our mental thoughts, than other. But our bodies are energy, and that's what continue. You know, so our mind is energy. So that's after we die. And so that's consistent with what I was saying. Now, the heaven thing, I was using heaven because we're speaking to people who may not be thinking in the same way you are or I am. And so I'm languaging things so that people can understand them in their language, because some people, they call that place heaven.
Right.
And so, but Jesus, in my memories being with Jesus, he did speak, as you said, of seeking the kingdom of heaven within. And I speak about this. So what did he mean by that? I just talked about this on Easter Sunday to one of my classes. What did he mean when he said, seek the kingdom of heaven within? That was 2,000 years ago language. The language that I use today in 21st century is turning within. It's the same thing. And so seek the kingdom of heaven within. He was talking about not where his father Jehovah was. He was talking about within, turn within, strengthen yourself from within first, go inside first. They call it the inside out approach. We go inside first, we strengthen inside. So we seek the kingdom of heaven within, or in my language that I use 21st century now, we turn within, we connect with ourselves in this different way, we strengthen ourselves, and then that opens up and unfolds all of these things that you're talking about, including more subtle perception, potentially, of all the energy patterns that you're talking about. Like this glass of water is made up of atoms and molecules. It is a vibration. Exactly. And they're vibrating at a certain frequency and so forth. Now can you develop your mind? Can you develop your mind, as an analogy I use, where we expand the mind outside of the 8-inch plastic bucket? So I'll come back and explain that in a second. But can we develop our mind and expand our conscious capacity for mental experience so that we could potentially actually experience the energetics that exist all around us? Yes, that is possible. And so to your point, and they're functioning and they're vibrating at all different frequencies. And that includes what we refer to as the other side, which isn't far away. It's right here. We just don't see it.
It's right here.
Vibrating at a different frequency, like you said. So most people can't see it. Now, I have seen energy bodies from the other side in this reality that we call physical planet Earth right now. I've seen that. I've had those experiences. And some other people, I'm sure, who are listening have had similar experience or heard of people. And that's also a perception of, again, these different frequencies, these different energy levels that you're talking about in terms of the atomics and the molecular. Now, where did that come from? So there's an analogy that I borrowed from a graduate school psychology professor many decades ago. And he was just talking about, he's probably talking about the brain. I don't know if he was talking about the brain or consciousness, but either way, the analogy works. And what he said was, most people incorrectly think that their mind is limited to this little 8-inch plastic bucket with about 10 or 15 ping pong balls bouncing in and out of it. And he said, those are like your thoughts. Most people think that's their mind, because that's what they're consciously aware of all day. Oh, I got to go to the store. Oh, I got to pick the kids up at school. Oh, I got to get to work, whatever. Those thoughts, and they think that's their mind. He said, no. Your mind is vast. It's huge. It's much bigger than this little 8-inch plastic bucket.
Yes.
And so even if you're talking about the physical brain and you're not talking about consciousness, it works either way, because we know that we only light up a certain amount of our brain, a very small percentage, right?
Exactly.
And you were using, for example, a very small percentage of our consciousness. And so same thing. And so I've taken that analogy and I've expanded on it. So I've borrowed his analogy and I say, what I teach in my meditation, for example, is a simple technique with no focusing, no clearing the mind, no concentration, no focusing on the breath, et cetera, which very easily and effortlessly gets the mind out of the 8-inch plastic bucket. And then we can explore the vast football stadium, or it's actually not, but that just gives them a physical example. It's really mind is not a physical thing, but let's just say it's a physical, football stadium that seats 90,000 people. And you think it's this little 8-inch plastic bucket because there's a little desk lamp over it, and that's all you can see. And the football stadium is empty at night. So what I work with people to do is light up more of their consciousness. What does that do? It gives them the ability to experience what you've been talking about.
Yes.
Because otherwise, like you said, it's just workshop stuff. It's like it's book, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Very, very true. And I find for me is to be very present and in this now moment, which is really what helps me to expand my consciousness. And I like to, instead of using the word mind, and it's all, like we have different words for God, instead of using the word mind, which to me, I think of mind as this limited brain, but consciousness is unlimited. And that's what the essence of what we are. Here, you as Kelvin, you have a brain. Here, I am as Caroline, there is a physical brain. We have this physical being here. And now this physical being, I think of as a vehicle. I don't think of myself as being this body. I think of this body as, and I designed it. I like, I want to look like this. And I designed it before I came here. I designed this vehicle. It's just like a car. I think, to me, a car is such a great analogy. Like, I have a car, but I'm not my car. But I use my car to get from point A to point B in this reality. So I'm using this vehicle to get around in this dimension, and there are, like you said, there are other dimensions right here. My son is in spirit and he's right here. He's the co-host of this show. So my son Kyle is right here. I can't see him. I feel him, and he speaks to me through my heart, not my head. He talks to me through my heart, and I know exactly what he's saying. And he just thanked me for acknowledging him. So what I'm saying is, our body and our minds, our brains, minds, body are limited. They can do but so much. But who we really are is infinite consciousness, which is unlimited. So
here's why I use the word mind. So two things on that. I use the word mind specifically for two reasons. One is that I'm working across 41 different countries now. So people, I want to use a simple word that people can understand, and consciousness for some people it's either off-putting or it's too abstract for them because they can't get their mind around it. So I say, look, but when I define mind, I say you could use the word spirit, soul, consciousness, awareness synonymous with what I use the word mind. Because, and the other reason is, I specifically use mind because I want to teach people that their mind is they don't have a focusing mind and then they have this separate other mind. Their mind is a continuum. Consciousness is a continuum. It doesn't start and stop. And so the individual mind is all part of that continuum. It's connected. It's not disconnected. So I like to promote the idea by using the mind. Now, I define it, but I like it as not just being the 8-inch plastic bucket focusing part of our mind, but it's that vastness of our mind as well. And it's all connected. It's all part of it. Because what I've also run into is people denigrating, people putting down their focusing part of their mind, saying, oh, that's so bad, ego, bad, blah, blah, blah. Now, if they mean ego meaning selfish, I agree with that. But ego meaning identity, which is what it means in psychology, people don't often understand that. But if they're talking about identity, no, we each have an individual identity. That's not a bad thing. Now, how you express your identity, that could be a bad thing and hurtful to other people. But that's not, ego is neutral. Ego is not bad. So sometimes ego gets a bad rap because people are not using it.
I say the same thing all the time. Nothing bad with ego. I say the same thing.
It's your individuality.
Yes.
It's like now, and is it bad to be self-confident? No. Is it bad to be? Is it not so good to be arrogant? Yeah. Yes. But arrogance is like, it's like, self-confidence.
There's degrees.
There's degrees. Exactly.
Yes.
And but back to the mind point. Is that I think I try to encourage people to think of our minds as huge. And yes, the one that helps me walk down the stairs and not trip on it because I got to focus on where my feet are is all part of me. It's part of me, and it's part of my mind. It's good.
Yes. Okay. I love what you said, because ego does get a bad rap. But see, here's the thing: when you understand the truth of oneness, I always go back to the core of oneness. There's nothing bad. Okay. It is all of service. Now, our ego, yes, we need our ego in this reality, in this 3D dimension that we're in. We need it to help us, like you say, focus to walk down the stairs and to identify, I'm Caroline, you're Kelvin, and that's our identity. Now, ego, I agree with you, gets a totally bad rap, because ego, there is a purpose, a very good purpose for ego. But what me personally, and I say, and I always share with my listeners, I will share what resonates with me, but you go within and tap into what resonates with you. Now, for me, what resonates is, I don't want my ego, because again, when I think of my ego, I think of it, my 5 human senses that are extremely limited. So I think of my ego as being limited in protecting this body, which is great. So I tell my ego, and I swear to God, I had this conversation with my ego just the other day. I tell my ego, okay, you don't have to go to the back seat, but you're in the passenger seat. You are not driving the car. You are it's like my 5-year-old. Okay, now it's illegal to have a 5-year-old in the passenger seat, but I was just saying, so I don't want my 5-year-old driving the car. My higher self, my God self that knows all, I want my higher self driving the car. So I say to my ego, you're very useful, so you can ride shotgun. You know how the kids will argue who's going to ride up front with mommy and daddy, and they'll say, I'll ride shotgun. So I said to my ego, you don't have to be in the back seat, but you're definitely going to be shotgun. You're not driving the train. You're not driving the car. My higher self that knows all, that's unlimited, is driving the car. Yes. You're smiling.
Well, I guess I want my individual self who knows the rules of the road to drive the car. That's who I want. Okay, now I can access my higher self while I'm driving my car, but I want the one who's got the driver's license, who knows the rules of the road.
Well, see, no, my 5-year-old. Well, to me, I think of my ego as a 5-year-old. My 5-year-old does. My 5-year-old does not have a driver's license.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I view my mind as integrated, as an integrated whole. And I have a childlike goofball side to Kelvin Chin too, but that's all part of me.
Yes.
So it's not that I don't want to push that aside. That's an integrated part of the whole.
Right.
So I hear what you're saying, in the sense that I don't want to choose. I don't want to make the choice that my childish Kelvin Chin side, goofball side, is going to be driving the car at that moment. I want my more serious side paying attention. So I get that. So, but see, I am the driver. My mind, I mean. Okay. I'm choosing at any point which goofball side. Now, have I ever been in a car with my kids or my friends or somebody and gotten a little bit too goofy? Yeah. Okay. Then I got to check myself. I got to bring myself. Okay, I got to pay attention to the road here.
Right.
But anyway, I hear what you're saying.
But also, also, again, it's the language terminology, because you're using the word mind, not that, just that, like you said, not just this.
Yeah, big.
It's your word for mind is
Yes.
consciousness. And
Well,
see,
it's consciousness
my mind,
with the focus part. Both.
right.
Both.
But what I'm saying, when I don't think of myself as separate from my higher self. To me, my higher self just knows, see, you remember some of your past lives. I don't. My higher self, I know, knows all of my past lives. So I think right now, it's not that we're disagreeing. I think we're just using different terminology for the same thing.
Yes, exactly. It's languaging thing. And so that's what I was explaining earlier, why I define how I think when I use the word mind. I always define that for people, because for some people, consciousness, soul, spirit, awareness, it resonates and makes more sense with them. I said synonymous. You could just plug that in. It's fine.
Right.
Yeah,
Totally. See how language is so limited. See, because we were actually saying the same thing, using different terminology, and people might think we're disagreeing, and we're really not.
Well, the other thing is that it's not, so I draw a distinction between disagreeing and having different interpretations of experience too.
Exactly, and I agree with you 100%.
Like, okay, let's say you've never been to New York City. In New York City, we know, I'm just picking New York City because it's a big city, but we know terrible things are happening in New York City. And I have a lot of friends, and I have doctor clients and so forth who are, in fact, I'm doing a COVID-19 training for a medical staff of doctors and nurses at one of the New York City hospitals about how to deal with end-of-life issues and so forth, and talk to their patients. But anyway, I'm just using them this as an example. Let's say that that somebody has never ever been to New York City.
Right.
And 3 or 5 or 6 different people go to New York City for the very first time ever. Right. They come back, they have a different interpretation of what New York City is. To some people, they say, no, New York City is just all these really like crowded with people. They say, no, it wasn't like that. New York City is just all these tall skyscrapers, buildings. Somebody else says, no, New York City is about the food. New York City is about somebody else says, no. It's the theater. It's the theater. And so are they?
No one is right. They're all correct.
Right. Yes. They're having different interpretations of the same experience.
Yes, and that goes right back to goes right back to the unique aspects. Yes. We are unique, and I agree. I say it's never about disagreeing. It's always about a different perspective.
Yes.
And it's everyone has a unique perspective, and everybody's unique perspective should be honored. Not saying we're not going to agree with every perspective, or we're not. I'm not going to even use the word agree.
We don't have the same. We don't have the same. It's the language I use.
And we don't have to take it on. We can listen. Right. We share. Yes. That's what we're here. It's a diversity. We're supposed to share our unique perspectives, and we can honor each other and love each other for their unique perspective. It doesn't have to be our perspective. Our perspective could be very different. So I like the word perspective. Yes. And we're supposed to. That's the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to all have a unique perspective, because we're all a unique aspect of the divine experiencing. You're the divine experiencing being Kelvin. I'm the divine experiencing being Caroline, and that's the way. And so my thing is unity within diversity, because that's the only way we're going to achieve world peace. World peace doesn't come from everybody saying this, from us being clones of one another. That's not world peace. World peace comes from us each sharing and being our true selves, and respecting and loving and honoring everybody for the divine uniqueness they are.
Yeah. So to consistent with what you said, my memory of being with Jesus and the way he said that, his definition of love was consistent with what you just said. His definition of love was accepting the other person for who they are, not who you wish they were. Accepting the other person for who they are, not who you wish they were. Now, does that mean that, so that's love, that's acceptance. Now, does that mean that you go embrace somebody who's holding a knife up and is ready going to hurt you? No,
exactly.
That does not mean that. That means you appreciate and accept for who they are. Who are they at that moment? They're somebody you should probably run the other way from.
Right.
So you're still loving them in the sense that
you could be loving them as you run away.
Yeah, you're accepting them is his point. You're accepting them. You're accepting them for who they are. Now they're making that choice. That's between them and themselves, making that choice to be who they are at that moment.
Yes.
So his point was to not violate their free will. Now, we can talk about cruelty. Now, why does the person do cruel behavior? The person does cruel behavior and bullies because they're not feeling strong and confident within themselves. They're sad, they're unhappy. How do they make themselves happy? Because everybody has the pursuit, in my opinion, people have the pursuit of happiness in common, human beings. So even the bully does. So how does the bully make other people happy? I mean, make himself happy? He makes everybody else around him unhappy. And then he depresses everybody else. And then all of a sudden, I feel a lot better now. You know, I was feeling lousy before. I made everybody else feel lousier than I do. Now I feel great. And it's temporary, and it's an illusion from a long-term standpoint, but it's a quick-term fix for the bully. And the bullies, we've seen bullies, and they do it over and over and over again. They are weak people inside. They are lacking in self-esteem and lack of confidence, and they're unhappy people. They're essentially unhappy, and that's how they make themselves happier. Yes. So what do we need to do? From Jesus's perspective, he would say recognize that, because he talked about, you see a snake, you don't go up and kiss a snake. A snake is a snake. You accept the snake for who they are, And he's like, the way to really help a bully is to embrace the bully, increase their self-confidence, and then they won't be a bully anymore. Now, that's difficult if they're like a confirmed bully. And I'm not saying that, everybody needs to go out and kumbaya a bully, because you don't want to get hurt.
Well, here's the thing.
But there are people who are borderline. There are borderline people who can be helped, who want to be helped, who are bullyish, right? And we have, and myself, look, we've all been bullies at times. When I was tired and when my kids were little, have I been a jerk sometimes with my kids? Of course, nobody's perfect, right? We all have those moments. But if we recognize, self-aware wise, if we recognize that that's from ourselves being a little off inside, a little bit, too tired, or a little bit whatever, then we can adjust and be less cruel in our world.
Yes. The thing I'm thinking is, the whole time you're saying that, what I'm thinking of is the self-love. It's that not having that love within yourself is what makes you act so unkindly and mean and cruel to others, because there's no self-love in there. And what you can do, like you say, it's not about getting, going up to a murderer and just giving them a hug. It's not about that, because we are energetic beings, and we can send from anywhere in the universe. We can send love and light and healing to anyone. So it can be, science has proven that by us sending and meditating, like if a group gets together and say, okay, we want to find, pick a certain person, and we want to send that, and that person could be on death row, and we want to send that person love and light, they will feel it. They'll all of a sudden start like, I'm feeling a little better. I don't know why, but you know what I'm saying? We are that powerful. We are that powerful.
Influence. We have influence. Yes. We definitely have influence. So I draw a distinction between, I agree with you completely, in terms of influence. We can influence others, but we cannot make choices for them. They have to make that choice. That's where the free will comes in.
Yes.
So there's two things, and they're not mutually exclusive. They go hand in hand. Exactly. They're at the same time. So we can influence others. Look, when I teach classes, I'm influencing people. I'm giving them perspectives. And perspective, I love your word perspectives. I use it all the time with my students. I said, I'm giving you perspectives on things. You need to decide what is valuable from what I'm saying. And if it resonates, great, take it, use it, change it, whatever. If it doesn't, put it on the shelf. Do not take blindly anything that I say to you. That's the first thing I always say to my students, is that they have to figure things out, because back to the first thing we talked about, self-knowledge, self-realization, that's all about each individual figuring it out. So back to so we influence others, but he or she needs to take that. If somebody's on death row, they may feel that, and they may think, or they may embrace it. So that's their choice. We don't have control over that.
Exactly. And yes, I agree. I totally agree. And but also, like I said, I always go back to the one. I believe that at the core, no matter how, it's the non-judgment of another, in the sense that no matter how despicable their acts may be, we know, you know way more than I know. I know just by a knowing inside that we live many hundreds of lifetimes, and we evolve in each lifetime. So, but at the core, I believe we are beings of light, and all of us came from the light. Now we've chosen to experience the dark. It's a choice. And we forget that we are of the light. So at the core of everybody's being is that unconditional love, but we have forgotten. Many have so forgotten, they're like nowhere near it. So we can send our love to help them remember, but
sure.
it is their free choice
yes.
to remember. I don't think every soul has chosen to awaken in this lifetime.
You're right. I totally agree with you.
Is a soul choice.
Totally
yes.
agree. Totally agree with your last point. I mean, you look around and you say, really, out of the 7.6 billion people on planet Earth, are you telling me that those people have strategically decided to come to planet Earth to learn lessons? I'd say no. I'd say some people have, a good percentage of the population perhaps has, but most people are just here generally kind of figuring things out initially. And it may take a while for them to kind of get to the point, and who knows when. Again, that's their free will decision. We don't know. To engage in a more of a self-awareness kind of exploration type journey, and that's their choice. It's totally their choice. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Yes. And I also say not learn. I use the word remember or wake up, because I believe at our core we are divine beings of light, but we don't remember. We chose to forget to have the experience. We can't have this experience if we remember that we're divine beings of light. So we have to forget to have the experience. So it's God, to me. God wants to experience all that is. All that can be experienced, God wants. So we each are holographic aspects. And I love the quote that describes holographic to me perfectly is Rumi's quote. You're not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. So each of us is all of God in a drop. But we come to experience 3D reality, so we forget, and we're all on different, we live hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes, and we forget, and we don't, but in each lifetime, I believe we evolve. We start to remember a little bit more in each lifetime. So please share with us. Share with us, because you said, how many lifetimes have you remembered?
Somewhat about 25.
Okay, share with us an interesting lifetime. I'm sure they were all interesting.
Yeah.
So we don't have time to go through all 25.
Well, let me tell you about my Jesus memory, and because I want to talk about this idea of heaven on earth. And if I forget in the context of this, you remind me to come talk about
No. I'm so glad you're bringing that up. I'm so glad.
So just remind me, just say heaven on earth, and it'll remind me, okay?
Okay.
But I'll tell you how it unfolded, okay?
Okay.
So it was the first memory that I had, actually. It's not the first memory I talk about, because like in my book, there's a copy of my book. People So this book, Overcoming the Fear of Death Through Each of the Four Main Belief Systems. The four main belief systems, by the way, are not religious. They're not religious beliefs. They're not cultural beliefs. They underlie all the religious and cultural beliefs. But in there, it's not the first memory I talk about. I talk about being a Carthaginian slave 2,300 years ago, because I didn't want to talk about my Jesus memory right off the bat, because, you know, I didn't want to make the book sound religious, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. But since we've already gone there in this this podcast, in your radio show, I'll go there. Okay. So it's actually the first memory that I had in 1977, and the way it first came was it came to me in a dream. And and I didn't know it was a memory. All I had was a dream. Okay, to me, it was just like a lucid dream that I'd had many lucid dreams before. And so I'd been meditating at that point about 7 years. And I had a lucid dream, and I was lying in a ditch, and I was really distraught. I was incredibly upset. I was all dirty, and I could feel that I had all the senses going. So I mean, I did physical. I could feel the dirt and the grit of the rocks and stuff in my mouth because I'd been crying on it. I was passed out, fell asleep in the ditch on the side of a road, and dirt road, and I couldn't see my face, but I saw my legs, and I had a tunic on, kind of a thing, a dirty brown thing, and then sandals. So I knew it was a long time ago, but that's all I knew. That was my memory. Okay, but I was incredibly emotionally upset, and so so then, fast forward about 6 or 8 months, I'm on a long meditation course. So I would go on these meditation courses back then. I used to teach transcendental meditation for 10 years. I studied with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. I talked to him like I'm talking to you in his hotel room many times. I was an international leader in that organization, but I left it after about 10 years because they went off in a different direction. But I was on one of his courses, and we would meditate all day, every day, and for several months. And I was on one of these courses in Switzerland, and we left the hotel. We would go for walks sometimes, and we would sit and then we'd meditate in a hotel on these pieces of foam, wall-to-wall ballrooms of foam floor. That's it, no furniture, just foam. We'd sit there and we'd have big group meditations. And in one of the group meditations, after a while, I started flipping over on my back, and I was getting crucified upside down. So I was experiencing being crucified and going through the physical pain and the emotional pain, and all of that, was not a pleasant experience. But I was physically, people could see me on my back. Other people are getting Kundalini rushes, like energy rushes, during meditation, and they're doing these Kundalini techniques, and they're bouncing around on the foam and stuff. I'm stationary on my back, but my feet up in the air, and like a shoulder stand, kind of, if people know what that is in yoga. So I'm like up there, kind of like that. My legs are up, and the energy is just like pumping through me, like 1,000 times stronger than sticking a fork in a toaster oven. It's like, boom. And so that's going on every time I meditate for 2 weeks. I'm doing that. Okay. And so my friend George Hammond is with me on that course. And so a little background. So you said you grew up Christian. I grew up Christian also, but I probably, unlike you, I was a very bad Sunday school student. I would go to Sunday school and not pay attention. Okay. I would just be teasing the girls. Okay. So I don't remember anything Bible. So we're walking. George and I are going for a walk. He was a Catholic, altar boy, went to Catholic schools and knows all that stuff. And so I started to tell him the dream that I'd had about 8 months earlier. I said, George, I had this dream, and I just started, and I said I was really upset in this dream. I didn't say anything more. And he said, oh, you were in a ditch and you were all dirty and blah, 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 blah. And he finished, he told me all the details, and he told me the details of what I saw in this dream that I'd had about 8 months earlier. And I said, how did you know this? And he said, because I'm the one who found you 2,000 years ago. I found you in the ditch. I'm getting a little emotional right now. And he said he found me. I was so upset lying in the ditch 2,000 years ago. And he said, you've been flipping over in your back for two weeks now. And you said you've been being crucified. You know who was crucified upside down? I said, no. And so that's what he refreshed my memory of that. So that's when I started having all the memories of being with Jesus and so forth and so on. It just opened up the floodgates. And so so that's why I remember him saying, seek the kingdom of heaven within, and he meant to turn within. And he talked about heaven on earth, and he talked about, because like you said, I just want to support what something you said, we got heaven there, and so, and we got life here on earth, but if we seek the kingdom of heaven within, we can bring heaven on earth. We can make this more light, and less, the language you used was dark, and so make the more lightness in the world, and less darkness in the world. Getting a little emotional right now. Less cruelty and hurtful behavior. But it starts, like you said, and you've said throughout the show today, it's going within, it's turning within. That we got to connect with ourselves. That's the important thing. And so we need to each find a way, whatever way works, to turn within. So I'm not a proponent of like, you got to learn my meditation technique.
Right,
it's like my way or the highway. No, I'm an inclusive person. It's like you find a way that works for you. And if it works, then I'm a pragmatist. It's like, that's what you go with. And then, but it's all about that. It's like turning within. So yes, we can have heaven on earth, to use Jesus's language, but it's a matter of strengthening ourselves from the inside out, not forcing people to change. We can influence, like we were talking about earlier. We cannot force, because no. That's a violation of free will.
Right, free will is true. We truly live in a free will universe, and it is all about. That's what I was saying. I think I mentioned towards the beginning. It's not, and I was glad that you said that. A lot of everything you came to wasn't that you didn't get from a book. You got it from within, and that's where. And we are so unique in how we go within and tap into it. It's going to be different ways. It's meditation, yoga, tai chi. I mean, whatever floats your boat. If it gets you to go within and tap with that truth within you, because that's where the truth lies. It's inside each of us, and each of us is going to experience it differently and have different perspectives of it. And when we when we get to the point where we can just truly tap into who we are, I think that just everybody at some point going within and tapping into who they truly are, and coming to that realization, self-realization, where it says, know thyself. And I forget where that comes from. I know I think it's in the Bible, but know thyself. Exactly. That's all. When you know yourself, we will be living heaven on earth. When everybody on the planet has tapped into that awakening. And here's where we are in 2020. Now, I've been saying on this show since September of 2019 that 2020 is going to be the year of clear vision, and I don't think there's any coincidences. We've been using the term 2020 for clear sight. For when you go to the doctor, eye doctors, he said, "Oh, you have 2020 vision." We've been using, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I believe that we are at the beginning of a mass awakening. This pandemic is the beginning of a mass awakening. And when I didn't realize it right away. I realized it like maybe a week after the whole shutdown started. And I just got so excited. I was like, wait a second. I've been saying 2020 is the year of clear vision, 2020, but I didn't know what that was going to look like. For me, I thought usually things happen towards the end of the year, not to be it started like in March. I'm like, this is right. But when me personally, I just got so excited because I really believe that the world will never be the same after this. And I believe there's many, many timelines we can experience. It's not just one, because we live in the multiverse. And that's, again, everything I speak of, there is science behind it. There's the many worlds theory in science. But I believe that there's different dimensions, and there's more than one timeline. The now moment is that real moment. And we choose what we experience from how we vibrate. It's the frequency. So I really believe we are on a timeline as a collective to go to the fifth dimension. We're in 3D now, and we're going to the fifth dimension, fifth dimension will be that heaven on earth that the Bible speaks about in Revelations. And I believe that we, as a collective humanity, can experience that together, which excites in our lifetime. I'm not talking about something 100, 200, 300 years away. I'm talking about in our current lifetime. We are on track. This is my belief. So
let me tell you another lifetime. So it's just for educational purposes for audience.
Sure, of course.
So here's another one that came. And this one came about a year later or so like 1978 or so. But what I want to say about this, and this also happened with my lifetime with Jesus, so forth, and other lifetimes that I've had, is that pieces come over the years, and they come over the years, and it's like 100 million piece jigsaw puzzle. Imagine this: you have 100 million piece jigsaw puzzle with no book, no box cover. You don't know what it's supposed to look like, and that's like one lifetime. Yes. And then you get like 5 pieces. Whoa, they fit together. And you get like another 20 pieces, they actually fit together. But the 20 and the 5 don't go together, but it's the same life. And you start getting pieces like this, and you don't exactly know like what it's looking like. Oh, I think I get a sense. And so let me give you an example of this. So I had this experience around 1978 where I had finished meditating, and I always recommend to my students to lie down or sit or lie or take a resting period, a transition after the meditation before they get up. Don't just get up. And I say this to everybody who does other meditation techniques too. You should always rest afterwards, you transition. So I'm lying there resting afterwards, and I'm lying down, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. I'm lying there in that kind of not wide awake, not meditating, not dreaming, not sleeping. I'm in that kind of in-between state, okay?
Yes.
And my mind's drifting. All of a sudden, the TV screen goes on in my mind, and I don't see myself. I see, you know how in dreams you can see stuff. So it's like that. It's like you have a camera right here, right? You have the camera. I'm walking into this room.
Yes.
And stone floor, stone walls, stone ceilings, big stone blocks, 2 foot, 3 foot, big, huge stone blocks. I walk into the room. There's nobody in the room. And the furniture is all pushed against the walls. Big, like ceiling, maybe 40, 50 feet high. I scuba dive, so I can tell heights really easily. And so it's really big room. I walk in, and there's one piece of furniture in the middle of the room. It's a full-length mirror. I walk up to the mirror. It's the first time that I've ever seen myself. Seen myself in a vision or anything. So I see myself, and I am big, huge guy. So at this point in my experience, I'm going to come back to this in a sec about another experience through this lifetime. But at this point, I don't know how big, but I'm big. I'm huge. Long reddish, blondish hair, big full beard, Caucasian, big and full-length chainmail with a tunic and a white a cross on it. So I have a tunic and a cross on me.
So I'm thinking about the knights.
Yes, I'm a crusader. So what happened in the experience? So I see this, and I have knowingness, like you said earlier. How do you know? You just know. How do I know how do I know I'm on Zoom with you? I don't know. I just know. We don't have to call friends and say, what am I doing now? Just let me know. No,
it's a knowing. It's a knowing.
Yeah. So I just knew that was me, right? I knew it was me. And then immediately, split second later, doubt went through me. And then a millisecond later, this energy went through from my feet, shot up through my body, out through my head, like a fire hose of energy just shot through me. With knowingness again, that it was me. So I went knowingness, doubt, knowingness. Split second. And then I relaxed into it, and then I started having all kinds of memories. And then over the years, I had other pieces. So let's fast forward in this same crusader memory. So now, that was 1978. So now, let's say in 2010, 10 years ago, I'm with my daughter, meditating with my daughter. She's sitting on one bed, I'm sitting on another bed. We're meditating together. And in the middle of my meditation, I yell, Saracens. And I have this vision of myself on horseback. The
Mhm.
dust is everywhere, and I can feel and taste the grit of the dust and the rocks, kicked up by the horses and everything. And I have a broadsword, and I'm going through, and I'm in battle. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm yelling Saracens. I did not know what that word meant. So
Mhm.
then this is 2010, just 10 years ago. So then I Wikipedia it, because now we have internet. Back in the old days, I had to look it up in Encyclopedia Britannica. Now it's
Right.
like, I look at Google Saracens, and I find out that the word Saracens is the word that we used to use for the word Muslims before 1300 AD. Muslims we started using in 1300 AD to present. Before
Okay.
that, we called them Saracens, the people
Okay.
Muhammad, Islam, and so forth, right?
Okay.
So,
I got you.
yeah. So that was my life in 1100 AD. We called them Saracens. I did not know what that word meant.
Mhm.
And so I looked it up. So that's an outside kind of example of a data point that I didn't know it's Kelvin Chin, but my memory blurted out the word, right? My memory banks blurted the word out and had the memory experience. So
Mhm.
that's another thing. And then about a few years later, maybe a year or two later or something, I started having the knowingness that I was 6'5", 225, 230 pounds. How do you know that? How do you know? I just knew, and when I was a Crusade, I don't know why I knew this. I knew how big I was.
Right. Wow. Wow.
But then
Wow.
I figured
Wow.
out who I was. Yeah,
Wow.
because I always saw myself being the first or one of the first two or three into battle. And
Mhm.
so
You were on the front line, as they
I knew
say.
as a front line, I knew as a leader,
Mhm.
right? But I
Mhm.
didn't know who exactly I was
Mhm.
until I knew how big I was, because most people
Wow.
were about 5'2", 5'3", 5'4" back then. I was 6'5", 230.
Okay. Okay. Well, here's the thing. For me, here's my definition of knowing, and I say that all the time because people will ask me, "How do you know?" And I'm like, it's a knowing from within. Like I said, it's not from a book. I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of things I listen to that help inspire me. The word for me, inspire, and that's why I say on my show, my mission is to inspire others. Inspire means to have someone go within, like you said, turning within. But I say my definition for knowing is belief on steroids. Meaning it's just I know that I know that I know. And I don't have to explain to someone else how I know. I just know, it's a knowing. It's an internal thing. It's not an external thing.
That's right. It's
And
internal.
and the other wonderful thing, I was talking about the 5D. I loved when you were saying in the beginning how you remembered 25 lifetimes, which is amazing, because in 5D, where we're going, which is not far away, we will be living as our higher selves. And we will know it'll be we will still have a body, but it'll be crystalline based instead of carbon based. We will still have a body. We will be living a human experience as our higher self, and we will all know all of our lifetimes, and we will be able to live this life in 5D with all of the knowing of all of our lifetimes, which will be amazing. So,
Yeah. And so my thing always is, if we remember any of our lifetimes, like I said earlier, what can we take from that informs us about who we are
no.
and apply it today to help me live as Kelvin Chin today? So for example, in that Carthaginian slave lifetime that I talk about in my book, I was dying. The first memory I had was I was dying, roasting in the sun on a piece of wreckage on what I thought was the ocean. But it
Okay.
wasn't. It turned out to be not the ocean. I figured out later. But it looked like the ocean because it couldn't see any land, right?
Right.
But I was on a piece of wreckage. I was dying. I was near end of death. And but what I did was I willed myself to stay alive, and I've used that willing myself to stay alive this lifetime,
Right.
when I've been laid off 5 times since I was 50 years old because a company gets absorbed, or the 2000 dot-com bust, blows up everybody's financing, or the 2008 thing, and you're out on the street looking for a job. All of those things, I've used that inner strength and my knowledge about my ability mentally to have strong willpower throughout all these lifetimes to manifest myself in a way that bring myself to an interview, in other words, to make it feel like I'm not fearful, even though I kind of was worried about getting another job and supporting my little children. Right? So putting on a good face and so forth, and willing myself to kind of stay, in a sense, financially alive.
Yes.
Whereas 2,300 years ago, when I was a Carthaginian slave fighting for the Carthage, because I was an African. I was African. I was very, very, very dark skin African.
Yes.
And I was a slave for the Carthaginians rowing in a ship. So I started having later memories. I could see the ship, then I would look it up. This is the following the breadcrumbs tip that I give my students. Follow the breadcrumbs. Okay, you remember what the ship looks like. Okay, go look up and see what you can find out. What does it look like? Oh, it looked like a Carthaginian ship. Oh, what were they fighting? Oh, they were fighting the Romans. So I figured out it was approximately probably around 2,300 years ago, because Carthage ruled the Mediterranean. So see, I thought I was on the ocean initially. It wasn't. It was on the Mediterranean, but I couldn't see the land.
Right.
But I willed myself to stay alive long enough in that lifetime. Eventually, some fisherman or somebody came by and picked me up, and I lived. But I use that today, is my point. How can that inform me today and strengthen me today and inform me today about who Kelvin Chin is as a personality through all of these lifetimes?
Yes. And here, I love all of your lifetimes and your dying. A lot of people, when they do either have a regression session, the first thing they do remember of a lifetime is that death moment. And what to me, I don't even like the word death, because there is no such thing. Is there only eternal life? And we have lived hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of lifetimes. I believe it's infinite. And here's the thing too, when you know that, when you know you're an eternal soul living thousands of lifetimes, that takes away the non-judgments of other people. Like, okay, you've lived in so many different, you were black, you were white, you were Chinese, you've been everything. And we've all been everything. We've all been every religion. We've all been every skin color. We've been everything. And when you understand that it takes away all the prejudices. It takes away all the, even if someone you see, like I say, if I see someone doing something I would not do today, someone going out and robbing and maiming and hurting others, I have nothing but love and compassion for that person, because I know that I lived a lifetime doing that. Whenever we judge, we're judging really ourselves and us in that lifetime, because it's just one, it's just all of us. And when we understand that it's all of us, it takes away, we have unconditional love for others. We have unconditional compassion for others. We have unconditional respect for others. And we understand that soul is just at the level where it is, and it's gonna evolve and it's gonna grow, but we can't force it. We can't. Exactly. It's a free will. It's a free will universe.
Exactly.
And we have to.
Very beautifully said. Very beautifully said.
Yes.
Beautifully said. It's so true. It's that back to the Jesus definition of love.
Yes.
Love is accepting the other person for who they are, not who you wish they were. And so if we do accept that, that starts breaking down barriers. And so, people use the phrase, and sometimes I've used the phrase too, unconditional love, but I thought about it. It's like, well, if we take Jesus's definition of love is accepting the other person for who they are, not who we wish they were, then all love is unconditional. It's like, it's what there's conditional love. There's no such thing as conditional love. I love you. I only love you. I call that liking. I may like you a lot, but it's not love in the way Jesus defined love, right?
Right.
So love is love. And it's like if there is more of that, what you're describing as acceptance, then, the world would be a heck of a lot better place.
And to me, the acceptance comes from the knowing of the oneness, knowing that you truly are not separate from that person.
We are connected.
From all that connected. Is. Yes.
Yes, there's an interconnectedness.
No separation. Yes.
Yes, there's an interconnectedness that is largely overlooked, we'll just say.
Yes.
We'll say it judiciously.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
That's,
Well,
it's,
that's the 3D, the three, like I say, this physical reality that we're in, the 3D matrix, is all about separation. At the core of this 3D reality is separation. And that's why I launched my show 5 years ago, 6 months after the transition. That's the word I use. Transition of my son who's in spirit. I was awakened in the middle of the night by spirit to launch the show. I had no idea what a podcast. I never even heard the word podcast at the time. So I didn't know, but I was inspired to do it and I just was obedient. But my mission is to awaken the humanity to the fact that there is no separation. Science is telling us this. Ancient wisdom, spirituality, the core of all religions is unconditional love and oneness. And this is what Jesus knew this. This is what Jesus was teaching 2,000 years ago. And so it was just that because I believe we are at that transition where we are going to a higher level as a collective. In the 5D, we will all know that the key to 5D, the passport to get to 5D is knowing the one. And when I say knowing, it's not a belief. It's a knowing that we are one with all that is the creator, divine, God, whatever terminology, knowing our oneness with source and knowing our oneness with each other. That is our key and our passport to 5D. And on 5D Earth, there will not be this division because 5D Earth is all about unity consciousness. 3D Matrix is all about separation. So that's that big bridge difference.
Yeah. So this interconnectedness that we all have, and it's the phrase that to use the same to say the same thing and to use language that I use, I talk about integration. So it's about integrating because they're not mutually exclusive. Having the heaven on earth experience is a real experience, and we start each individually. That's the thing. Each individual is an individual component of helping make that happen jointly. So, but it starts on the individual level because the free willness cannot be, it cannot be superseded. The free will happens, and so people need to make that choice, and it's their choice to make the choice or not. But to integrate, to be to be more integrated in terms of our inner and our outer. So you talk about. So to me, to use your language, like 3D is like outer, and what you're calling 5D, I call that an integration of the inner and the outer.
Well, exactly. Yes, it is.
So the integration of the inner and the outer can be a living reality for anybody who chooses.
Exactly. And then actually, in essence, it's because if you're in that integration right now, you are in 5D right now.
Exactly.
Yes. Exactly.
That's right.
Yes, very true. Now, please, Kelvin, share with our listeners how they can find you, follow your work, and how they can find your books. Share everything, all your details with our listeners.
Okay, probably the easiest thing to do, and I'll give them some other subsets of this, but the easiest thing is if they Google my name, Kelvin Chin, Kelvin, just going to make sure you got the L in there, KelvinChin. If they Google my name, everything pops up because I have 4 different websites. My turningwithin.org is my meditation website. I have overcomingthefearofdeath.org is my help for overcoming, helping people regardless of what their religion is and so forth, helping them reduce their fears and anxieties. And then my third one, which is my more spiritual website, is kelvinchin.org. So they're all .orgs because they're all nonprofits.
Yes.
And then they should also find me on Facebook.
Okay.
And then subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is just called Kelvin Chin Turning Within. Or they could probably just type in Kelvin Chin and they'll find me that way too. But either way.
Okay.
On
awesome.
YouTube. Yeah.
Well, the wonderful thing, I do a blog post for all my shows, and in my blog post we'll have all those links. So
Okay,
that'll
great.
be easier for them to find,
Great.
which is
Great.
great. Great,
Yeah,
great,
and
great.
the book is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all it's worldwide. It's available worldwide.
Yes.
It's both paperback, ebook, and I do the audio book.
Okay. Awesome.
I do the narration. So
Very, very good. Well, this has been so wonderful.
good. Thank you
I'll
so
tell
much,
you,
Caroline. Fun.
it is. I love having these conversations with people that are awake and just sharing it with the world. That is just. I feel that's why I'm here. That's my purpose, and I'm just following it. So thank you so much, Kelvin. I got to meet. You are a tall guy. How tall are you? Because I am 5'1.5". And I got to meet you in person at the conference in September. How tall are you?
I'm 6'2", 6'3" with my shoes on. When you saw me, I was probably 6'3", 6'4", but
Okay.
with my shoes on, yeah.
And
yeah.
my son Kyle, who's in spirit,
Yes.
is 6'2".
He looked like, I saw his picture, and
Yeah.
he looked about 6'2". Yeah.
Yes, he's 6'2", a big
Right.
guy. He played football in high school.
I saw that.
And when people saw us together, people would say, how did that come out of this?
Exactly. So you got exactly what my mother got my whole life growing up with my mother, because my mother was 5'0".
Okay.
My mother was 5'0", and my father's 5'6".
Okay.
I outgrew my mom in the 4th grade, and she used to get, people used to think that I was her younger brother.
Okay.
She loved that. She loved that, right?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. Since Kyle since the time he was 14, whenever we would be together, people would think that we were a couple, and that I loved it because they made me feel nice and young. He hated it. He would say, right. "Mom, get away from me. Get away. I don't want people to think we're a couple." He would. he hated it.
That's hysterical. Well, that's a statement about your youthfulness too.
Yes.
Right? That's
yes,
good.
Yes. So I loved it because people would think, "Oh, they think I'm that young."
Exactly.
Yes, he hated it.
That's hysterical.
Well, thank you, Kelvin. This has been so wonderful.
Oh,
thank you so much. And we will be sharing this. We'll go air live this Friday, and I will share you, after I prepare it, I'll share all the links where you can share with your listeners, your followers.
Sounds good, Caroline. Thank you so much. It's really good to see you.
Thank you. Yes. Namaste. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Have a great day.
You too.
Hi, that was a great conversation with Kelvin Chin. Just imagine having glimpses of 25 other lifetimes. That is just amazing. And he also had a near-death experience. He has wonderful experiences. You have to check out his books, and they will all be linked in the blog post I write up for Calvin. So I also like to offer on my website a free mentoring session for anyone interested in having a free mentoring session with me. Please just go to my website, awake2onenessradio.org, and just email me and let me know you're interested in a mentoring session with me. I also am hosting a weekly Zoom meeting, especially now during the pandemic. We are all shut in, and the more we communicate through gatherings like Zoom meetings, it's the great way for us to stay connected and to expand our consciousness. So the meeting this month, April, will be Thursday, April 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're interested, again, just go to my website and I will just email me, let me know, and I will make sure you have the link to that monthly meeting. Also on my website, you will find a list of free online events. I love to share these events, and they do change kind of weekly. Now, many of the events are focusing on holistic healing, holistic ways of boosting your immune system, and holistic ways of healing. So you just go to my website, you'll see a tab, free online events that you can check out. Also, I am just inviting you to pledge $1, $5, whatever you can afford to help support Awake to Oneness Radio. There is a donation button on the website, and all donations are greatly appreciated. So thank you so much. I appreciate you all, love you all, hope you all staying well, and please, during these times, it's very important that we remember to go within, like Kelvin and I were talking about, going within, meditating more, spending more time in nature. All these things are great at this time of what we're going through, at this time of the pandemic, to do everything we can to keep ourselves healthy physically, mentally, and spiritually. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.